Polling stations have opened in Iraq for elections that come at a time when the country faces enormous challenges. The country's economy has been struggling due to years of conflict, corruption, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Infrastructure is crumbling. Powerful paramilitary groups threaten the authority of the state. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced after years of war. Iraqis are expecting a meaningful change in their day-to-day lives. The election will witness many firsts. The vote is taking place under a new election law that divides Iraq into smaller constituencies. This allows more independent candidates to participate. The European Union and the United Nations have deployed dozens of election observers who will monitor the vote. There will be 600 international observers, including 150 from the United Nations. Iraq has also introduced biometric cards for voters. This is to prevent abuse of electronic voter cards. They will be disabled for 72 hours after each person has voted. This is to avoid double voting. Security has been beefed up. All airports across Iraq will remain closed till Monday morning. Despite all these measures in place, there are reports of vote buying, intimidation and manipulation. So who is competing this time around? Groups from Iraq's Shiite factions dominating the electoral landscape. This has been the case, in fact, since Saddam Hussein was toppled. It was the time when the country's power base shifted from minority Sunnis to majority Shiites. However, Shiite groups are divided. A tight race is expected between the political bloc of influential Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr and the Fatah alliance led by parliamentary leader Hadi al-Ameri. Young Iraqis are divided over whether to take part in the vote. In 2019, demonstrations were met with deadly force. At least 600 people were killed over a period of few months. The authorities gave in and called the election early. However, the death toll and heavy-handed crackdown prompted young demonstrators to later call for a boycott. Iraq's top Shiite cleric, Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani, has called for a large voter turnout. He says that voting remains the best way for Iraqis to take part in shaping of the country's future. 2018 election witnessed record low turnout with just 44% of the eligible voters casting ballots. Results were widely contested. And West Asia expert joining us is Bakhtiar Goran from Erbil, Iraq. Thanks very much for speaking with us here on WION World is One. Give us a sense of the mood on the ground and what is the voter turnout looking like?
Thank you for having me. As you mentioned, the elections started at 7 a.m. this morning. The turnout so far until noon, it's different from each province. So in the Kurdistan region, for instance, the turnout is around between 25 to 30%, but in other parts of Iraq, the turnout is somehow lower. It's in most of the areas, it's below 20%. So, and this is due to the boycott calls that were called by especially the youth people due to the crackdown on the protesters in October last year.
Right. What are the issues, according to you, that would determine the outcome of this election?
Well, for this election, there's no high expectation that it would create a dramatic changes in the ruling system or in the governance of Iraq. So there are three dominant levels in this election, where in the south there are Shias who are competing among themselves to secure the premiership. In the middle of Iraq there are Sunnis, mainly two large blocs who are competing to gain the largest among the Sunni community, and in the Kurdistan region where there are two main political parties are competing to gain the largest votes. So it's not mainly So the competition is within the political parties of different sects or different ethnic groups. That's why, and it's a bit difficult to predict how the results may come out.
Have there been reports of vote buying or intimidation coming in as well?
Not any systematic issues or fraud has been reported yet, as I've been monitoring the news reports from different channels. But there are few incidents here and there, like in small towns. There are some incidents where voters were hit by security force or militias affiliated with other political parties, but there were only few incidents that took place, and there was only few security incidents that took place in 2-3 areas. So the general view of the election is somehow positive so far.
The country has also introduced biometric cards for voters to prevent the abuse of electronic voter cards. Tell us more about the significance of this move.
Well, as I casted my vote this morning, I think the process was very helpful and very smooth going, but there was also some issues with reading the fingerprint of the voter, because the polling center where I was there, many people the device couldn't read their fingerprints because of some issues that were not resolved by the Electoral Commission. However, the Electoral Commission says that the issues were resolved, but some people are still facing that. And the importance of this device for the election is that it prevents double voting, as Electoral Commission claims. So, and since so far there hasn't been any complaints or any reports by the political parties that are participating of any sort of issues or any violations to the elections that have occurred. So far, according to the political parties, everything is going as good as they want.
All right, Bakhtiar Garan, thanks very much for joining us on the broadcast with those perspectives and inputs. A crucial election for Iraq that is now underway. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.